Alfred Hitchcock's Vertigo wasn't just another thriller. It became one of the most influential films in cinema history. Released in 1958, it mixed mystery, obsession, and psychological tension in a way audiences had never seen before. Today, it's considered a masterpiece. But behind all the praise lies a web of strange stories, odd production choices, and bizarre facts that make Vertigo even more fascinating. So buckle up, because here are 20 weird facts you didn't know about Vertigo.
My wife's family is all gone. Someone has to look after her injury.
Fact number 1, the movie was a box office flop. Despite its legendary reputation today, Vertigo was not immediately embraced when it first premiered in 1958. Many critics at the time found the pacing slow and the story overly complicated, struggling to connect with its psychological depth. Audiences, expecting the kind of suspenseful thrills Hitchcock was already famous for, were puzzled by its dreamlike tone and obsession-driven narrative. The film underperformed at the box office, and Hitchcock himself was reportedly disappointed by the lukewarm reception, considering it one of his personal failures during that period. Over the years, however, critics began to reassess the movie, recognizing its groundbreaking visual style, Bernard Herrmann's haunting score, and its raw exploration of obsession and identity. By the 1980s and 1990s, film scholars hailed it as Hitchcock's most personal and daring work. In 2012, Vertigo even dethroned Citizen Kane in Sight and Sound's poll of the greatest films ever made. What was once dismissed as confusing and flawed became celebrated as a masterpiece of cinema, proof that some films need time before the world truly understands them. But ironically, that failure turned into something historic later.
We're going to an opening of the opera tonight. We're dining at Ernie's first. You can see her there.
Fact number 2, it was pulled from circulation for decades. In the 1970s, Alfred Hitchcock made the unusual decision to withdraw Vertigo, along with 4 other titles, including The Man Who Knew Too Much and Rear Window, from circulation. For nearly a decade, audiences couldn't see these films in theaters or on television, creating a sense of mystery and inaccessibility. The absence only fueled curiosity, as fans and scholars whispered about a movie that was impossible to track down, further deepening its mystique. When the rights were finally re-released in the 1980s, Vertigo re-emerged with almost mystic status. Viewers who had only heard of it were stunned by its striking visuals, psychological complexity, and haunting themes. The film's temporary disappearance had ironically elevated its reputation, making its rediscovery feel like unearthing a hidden treasure. This lost film aura played a big role in transforming Vertigo into the classic it is regarded as today. And when it returned, it shocked critics in the best way possible.
Is there something I can do for you?
Yes, you run this hotel?
Oh, yes.
Fact number 3, Sight and Sound ranked it the greatest film of all time. In 2012, Vertigo made cinematic history when it overtook Citizen Kane in Sight and Sound's prestigious critics poll, claiming the top spot as the greatest film of all time. For half a century, Orson Welles' classic had been untouchable, a permanent fixture at number 1. The shakeup was more than just a change in rankings. It was a symbolic recognition of Hitchcock's artistry and the way film scholarship had evolved over the decades. Critics pointed to Vertigo's dreamlike visuals, Bernard Herrmann's haunting score, and its exploration of obsession as reasons it resonated so powerfully with modern audiences. The film's psychological depth, once considered alienating, had become its greatest strength. By dethroning Citizen Kane, Vertigo didn't just earn critical validation. It cemented its place as a timeless work of art, studied and admired for generations to come. But while critics loved it, Hitchcock's leading lady had a different story.
And built for her the great house in the Western Addition.
Fact number 4, Kim Novak hated working on the film. Kim Novak, who played the dual role of Madeline and Judy, later admitted that making Vertigo was far from enjoyable. She described Alfred Hitchcock as extremely controlling, often dictating not just her wardrobe and hairstyle, but even the smallest gestures and movements. For Novak, who was still relatively early in her career, the lack of freedom on set was stifling, leaving her feeling more like a piece of Hancock's puzzle than a collaborator. Over time, Novak recognized that this meticulous direction was part of Hitchcock's grand design. He wanted Madeline to appear like a carefully constructed fantasy, and Judy to embody the collapse of that illusion. While the experience felt restrictive to her as an actress, it ultimately enhanced the film's themes of manipulation and obsession. Novak later admitted that although she didn't enjoy the process, the end result was undeniably power, and it remains the defining role of her career. Hitchcock's obsession wasn't just with Novak, it carried into his camera tricks too. Fact number 5, the Vertigo effect was invented for this film. one of the most groundbreaking cinematic techniques to emerge from Vertigo was the now iconic dolly zoom. In this effect, the camera physically moves closer to or farther from the subject while simultaneously adjusting the zoom in the opposite direction. The result is a strange, unsettling distortion where the background seems to stretch or collapse while the subject remains in place. Hitchcock used it to mimic the dizzying sensation of vertigo itself, allowing audiences to experience Scotty's disorientation firsthand. This visual trick was so innovative that it quickly became known as the vertigo effect, cementing its place in film history. It has since been borrowed by countless filmmakers, from Steven Spielberg in Jaws to Peter Jackson in The Lord of the Rings. Even decades later, directors continue to rely on the shot whenever they want to convey shock, dread, or a shift in perception. What began as a risky experiment on Hitchcock's set has since become one of cinema's most enduring visual signatures. But the technology behind it wasn't easy.
How many times have you heard a woman say, "Oh, I went to see the movie and had a good cry"?
Fact number 6. The effect was done with miniatures. Instead of relying on real stairwells for his famous shots, Alfred Hitchcock used carefully designed scale models combined with trick photography to achieve the spiraling, dizzying effect in Vertigo. By placing the camera in a controlled miniature environment, he was able to create visuals that would have been impossible to capture safely or effectively on location. This clever use of practical effects allowed Hitchcock to bend reality and immerse audiences in the protagonist's disorienting fear of heights. For 1958, this approach was nothing short of groundbreaking. The technique not only pushed the limits of filmmaking at the time, but also influenced generations of directors who sought creative ways to visualize psychological states. The stairwell effect has since become one of cinema's most iconic shots, showcasing Hitchcock's genius for innovation and his ability to transform technical experimentation into unforgettable storytelling. Speaking of revolutionary, even the music carried odd secrets.
And an old wooden hotel from the old California days. And a saloon, dark, low ceiling.
Fact number 7. Bernard Herrmann's score was rejected elsewhere. Hitchcock's longtime collaborator, composer, Bernard Herrmann, had originally developed several musical ideas for a completely different project. Rather than letting them go unused, Hitchcock saw their potential and repurposed them for Vertigo. Herrmann adapted and expanded the pieces to fit the film's dreamlike atmosphere, crafting a soundscape that perfectly matched the spiraling visuals and psychological tension. The result was one of the most haunting and memorable scores in film history. The music's swelling, hypnotic themes capture the sense of obsession, longing, and dread that drives the story forward. Today, Herrmann's Vertigo score is considered a landmark achievement in cinema, studied by filmmakers and composers alike for its ability to heighten emotion and turn sound into a vital part of the narrative. But Hitchcock had more unusual plans for the story itself.
And she died.
She died
How?
by her own hand.
Fact number 8, the original ending was even darker. In the film's first version, Hitchcock planned for Scotty's story to end on an even darker note. After the final confrontation, Scotty was meant to return, only to hear a radio broadcast revealing that Gavin Elster, the true mastermind behind the crime, had managed to escape justice in Europe. The twist underscored the futility of Scotty's obsession and made the story far bleaker than the version we know today. However, when the scene was shown to test audiences, the reaction was overwhelmingly negative. Viewers felt it stripped away any sense of resolution and left the film feeling unfinished and unsatisfying. Hitchcock, always attuned to the audience's experience, decided to remove the ending entirely. By doing so, he gave Vertigo its now famous conclusion, which balanced tragedy with ambiguity and left a stronger impact on viewers. And while Hitchcock made cuts, the film itself went through some strange losses.
And then you started in on the clothes. Well, I'll wear the darn clothes if you want me to.
Fact number 9. Original negatives were damaged. By the time the 1990s rolled around, Vertigo was in serious danger of being lost forever. The original film negatives had suffered from decades of wear and poor storage, leaving colors faded and the sound heavily damaged. A massive restoration project was launched to rescue the film for future generations, and it became one of the most ambitious film preservation efforts of its time. Specialists had to painstakingly rebuild the audio, recreate certain sound effects, and even adjust Hitchcock's intended color palette to match the original look of the movie. The restoration was eventually completed in 1996, bringing Vertigo back to life in a way that allowed new audiences to see it as Hitchcock had intended. For many, it was like watching the film for the first time all over again, with its haunting visuals, and Bernard Hernan's unforgettable score restored to their former glory. This painstaking effort not only saved a classic, but also set new standards for film preservation worldwide, ensuring that cinema history could continue to survive despite the fragility of old film stock. But one thing that didn't deteriorate was Hitchcock's control over details.
Should be back from your face and pinned at the neck. I told her that. I told you that.
We tried it. It just didn't seem to suit me.
Fact number 10. Novak's gray suit was a Hitchcock obsession. Hitchcock was famously meticulous about costume choices, and nowhere is that clearer than with Kim Novak's wardrobe in Vertigo. He insisted she wear a strict gray suit for her role as Madeleine, despite Novak's protests that the color was unflattering and made her feel uncomfortable. Hitchcock, however, believed the muted gray gave her a ghostly, almost spectral quality, perfectly aligning with the film's themes of obsession, illusion, and death. The decision became one of the most iconic costume choices in cinema history, symbolizing the control Hitchcock exerted over his leading ladies. The gray suit, paired with Novak's carefully styled blonde hair, created an image that was both restrained and haunting. Today, that look is instantly associated with Vertigo and continues to influence film and fashion, proving Hitchcock's instinct for visual storytelling was as sharp as ever, even if it came at the expense of his star's comfort. And his obsession didn't stop with clothes.
Fell into San Francisco Bay. I tried to dry your hair.
Fact number 11. Hitchcock micro-directed Novak's movements. Kim Novak later shared that working with Hitchcock often felt more restrictive than liberating. He directed her movements down to the smallest details, instructing her on how to tilt her head, how to walk, and even how many steps she should take in a given scene. To Novak, it sometimes felt as though she was being used more as a carefully placed prop than as an actress with creative input. This strict control reflected Hitchcock's obsession with precision, but it also highlighted his reputation for treating his leading ladies more like extensions of his vision than collaborators. While Novak admitted it was frustrating, she also recognized that the end result created one of her most unforgettable performances. That tension between discomfort and artistry is part of what gives Vertigo its haunting power, with Novak's constrained, dreamlike presence fitting seamlessly into the film's eerie atmosphere. Speaking of props, one of them has a strange backstory.
Hello, my love. Like me? Is that the best you can do?
Fact number 12. The necklace was the key to the mystery. The necklace Judy wears in Vertigo is more than a simple accessory. It's a carefully placed visual clue. Hitchcock wanted the jewelry to act almost like a silent character, signaling the truth to viewers before Scotty pieces it together. By having Judy wear the very same necklace Madeleine had, Hitchcock planted a subconscious seed in the audience's mind, trusting that some would notice and feel an unsettling sense of recognition. This moment is a prime example of Hitchcock's mastery of visual storytelling. Instead of relying on dialogue, he used an object to shift the entire narrative. The necklace's reveal is subtle yet devastating, confirming Scotty's suspicion and unraveling Judy's carefully constructed disguise. It's a small detail with enormous weight, proving how Hitchcock could build suspense and deliver revelations through the smallest of choices. But Hitchcock's genius wasn't always appreciated by his stars.
See, I look up, I look down, I look up. I'm going right out and buy myself a nice tall stepladder.
Fact number 13. James Stewart thought he was too old for the role. At the time of filming Vertigo, James Stewart was 50 years old, and even he admitted later that he felt too old for the role of Scotty, especially opposite the much younger Kim Novak. The film required audiences to believe in Scotty's obsession with her, and while Stewart delivered a powerful performance, the age difference created a tension that some viewers found distracting rather than romantic. Stewart himself expressed discomfort, saying he worried the casting choice made certain scenes less convincing. Many critics in 1958 echoed their sentiment, arguing that Stewart's age worked against the story's intensity. Some felt the May-December dynamic made Scotty's infatuation seem less tragic and more unsettling, which contributed to the film's lukewarm reception at the time. Ironically, this very mismatch has taken on new meaning for modern audiences, with some seeing the awkwardness of a feature rather than a flaw. It underscores the film's theme of obsession, control, and unhealthy fixation, making the relationship feel even more disturbing. Oddly enough, the awkwardness may have worked in Hitchcock's favor.
I cannot tell you exactly how much time passed.
Fact number 14. Hitchcock wanted Vera Miles originally. Before Kim Novak was chosen for the role, Alfred Hitchcock had originally cast Vera Miles as the female lead in Vertigo. Miles had already worked with her on The Wrong Man and seemed like the perfect choice for his latest psychological thriller. Hitchcock had even groomed her for stardom, styling her image in line with his fascination for icy blondes. But when Miles came pregnant, she had to step away from the production, leaving Hitchcock frustrated and scrambling to find a replacement. Although Kim Novak went on to give a performance that became iconic, Hitchcock reportedly never forgave Vera Miles for abandoning the project. He felt that her pregnancy derailed his carefully laid plans, and the disappointment lingered for years. Some biographers suggest that his resentment affected how he treated Novak on set, pouring even more intensity into shaping her performance exactly to his vision. Ironically, what began as a setback may have pushed Hitchcock to create one of his most haunting films, with Novak delivering the role of her career. But casting changes weren't the only obstacles.
Oh, good for you. I always said you were wasting your time in the underwear department.
Well, it's a living.
Fact number 15, the movie faced censorship issues. When Vertigo was released internationally, not every audience saw the same version of the film. In certain markets, censors considered some of Hitchcock's imagery too disturbing or suggestive, particularly scenes dealing with obsession, death, and implied sexuality. As a result, distributors trimmed or altered specific sequences, softening the darker edges of the story. These cuts diluted the film's psychological intensity, making some early viewers miss out on the full depth of Hitchcock's vision. For years, these shortened versions circulated outside the United States, shaping a different reception aboard. It wasn't until much later, through restorations and re-releases, that the complete version of Vertigo became widely accessible to audiences around the world. Once those missing scenes were restored, the film's unsettling brilliance was fully recognized, helping cement its place as one of cinema's most daring and psychologically layered works. The restoration not only preserved its technical artistry, but also restored Hitchcock's intended impact. Even locations from the movie have strange histories.
Look, it's not fair. It's too late. It wasn't supposed to happen this way. It shouldn't have happened.
But it had to happen. We're in love, that's all.
Fact number 16, the San Juan Bautista Mission Bell Tower was fake. The Mission Bell Tower central to Vertigo's haunting climax was not what it appeared to be. By the time Hitchcock began production, the real tower at Mission San Juan Bautista had already been torn down years earlier due to structural concerns. Rather than abandon the setting, Hitchcock had his team construct a convincing replica on a Hollywood soundstage, carefully designed to match the mission's existing architecture. This allowed Hitchcock to stage the film's dizzying fall sequences with complete control over lighting, camera placement, and safety. The artificial tower also gave him the freedom to use the vertigo effect shot, which became one of cinema's most iconic visual techniques. Audiences at the time never realized the tower was fake, a testament to the meticulous design and Hitchcock's mastery at blending reality with illusion. And speaking of the fall,
Madeline, what's the matter?
I should have phoned you, but I wanted to see you and be with you.
Well, why? What's happened?
fact number 17, the fall scene used a double. Kim Novak did not perform the climactic fall herself in Vertigo. Instead, a professional stuntwoman was brought in to handle the dangerous sequence. Hitchcock, known for his obsession with control and authenticity, ensured that the stunt was filmed in a way that preserved the illusion for audiences. Clever camera work, strategic editing, and the stuntwoman's precision allowed the moment to feel seamless, as if Novak herself were plummeting from the mission tower. This choice was not unusual for the era, as leading stars were rarely put at risk during dangerous shoots. What made it stand out, however, was Hitchcock's ability to merge the stunt with Novak's earlier performance, so that viewers felt the emotional weight of Judy's tragic fall. The combination of technical skill and narrative power helped make the ending one of the most haunting finales in film history. But Hitchcock wasn't just staging stunts, he was hiding secrets in the background. Fact number 18, Hitchcock's cameo happens early. True to his tradition, Alfred Hitchcock makes a brief appearance in Vertigo about 11 minutes into the film. He can be spotted casually walking past a store that sells gray suits. It's a blink and you'll miss it moment, but one that has become part of the fun for audiences who eagerly scan every Hitchcock movie for his trademark cameo. This playful habit not only gave viewers an inside joke to enjoy, but also reinforced his presence as a storyteller who was always watching from the sidelines. Over time, spotting Hitchcock became almost like a game. adding an interactive element to his films decades before Easter eggs were common in cinema. His cameos are now studied and cataloged by fans, turning even the shortest walk-on roles into memorable cinematic moments. In Vertigo, the gray suit shop setting also feels fitting, given the symbolic importance of clothing in the story, especially with Kim Novak's strict wardrobe choices. The brief shot ties Hitchcock to the film's themes in his own subtle way. And if you thought Hitchcock was secretive, wait until you hear this.
I've told you enough.
Well, who's the guy and who's the wife?
Out. I've got things to do.
Fact number 19. The studio didn't understand the film. When Vertigo was first screened for Paramount executives, their reaction was far from enthusiastic. They complained that the film moved at a sluggish pace, that the mystery was too convoluted for general audiences, and that the story itself felt relentlessly bleak. For a major studio expecting another straightforward thriller from Hitchcock, Vertigo seemed risky and alienating. The studio feared that audiences wouldn't connect with its dreamlike quality, psychological obsession, and unsettling ending. Hitchcock, however, pushed back against pressure to simplify or lighten the tone. He argued that the deliberate pacing and unsettling atmosphere were essential to the story's impact, giving it a hypnotic rhythm unlike his earlier hits. While he reluctantly made some compromises, he still managed to preserve much of his artistic vision. Ironically, the very qualities Paramount resisted are now what critics praise most, cementing the film's reputation as one of Hitchcock's boldest and most haunting achievements. And finally, one weird fact shows just how misunderstood the film was at all.
No, that's not it. Nothing like it.
But you said gray, sir.
Fact number 20. Hitchcock blamed casting for the Vertigo's failure. Following the film's disappointing box office run, Hitchcock grew increasingly frustrated and looked for reasons why audiences had stayed away. He ultimately placed much of the blame on James Stewart. At 50 years old, Stewart's age had already drawn criticism from reviewers who found it difficult to believe him as a passionate romantic lead opposite the much young Kim Novak. Hitchcock, always conscious of casting dynamics, decided that Stewart's wholesome, aging persona clashed with the obsessive and unsettling tone of the story. Whether fair or not, this marked the end of their celebrated collaboration. Stewart had starred in several of Hitchcock's greatest films, Rope, Rear Window, and The Man Who Knew Too Much. But after Vertigo, Hitchcock never cast him again. Instead, he turned his attention to younger male leads, particularly Cary Grant and later Anthony Perkins. Over time, however, critics reassessed Stewart's performance, praising his vulnerability and descent into obsession as one of the finest and most daring of his career. And there you have it, 20 weird facts about Vertigo from 1958. From its box office flop to its rebirth as the greatest film ever made, it's clear that Hitchcock's haunting story of obsession has a legacy as strange as the film itself. If you enjoyed this, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment with your favorite Hitchcock movie. Which one should we cover next? And if you love this, you'll definitely want to check out our video, Fight Club, 20 Weird Facts You Didn't Know. It's packed with mind-blowing Easter eggs and behind-the-scenes stories. Like Vertigo, it stumbled at the box office before earning its reputation as a true classic. Go check it out now.